2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Wednesday, December 6, 2023. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Allstate Insurance in Westchester, PA, Cavs, Philly Tailgates, and the Edge of Philly Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. Chet, the Eagles got beat down by the 49ers on Sunday, and I'm going to tell you what, I don't want to hear they needed it, or it was good for them, or whatever the crap people were talking about. It was not good for them. No loss is ever good for you. We'll talk about all that. The Phillies have extended the contract of manager Rob Thompson through 2025. I think you might know how I feel about that. We'll certainly hit that. The Flyers sweep a home and home from the Penguins, and the Sixers face the Wizards tonight after losing their last 2 and 4 of their last 6. You might have heard there's a little controversy in college football. How about that? Welcome back from your week off, and thanks to Freddie Burns for a great job he did filling in last week. We have plenty to fill in.
Hey, kudos to Freddie, first of all. Great job, as always, by Fred. You know, Bill, hard to believe, but since last week's show, the Sixers and Eagles are a combined 0-3, while the Flyers have gone 2-0-1 to pick up 5 out of a possible 6 points in those 3 games, all of which went beyond 60 minutes of play. Go figure.
Yeah, and you know, if you feel bad about that, you could feel really bad about Florida State. But we'll get to that somewhere down the line tonight. But hey, we have a great guest tonight making a return visit to Philly Pressbox Radio from the 94 WIP Morning Show and Go Birds Weekend Show. The always energized James Seltzer is going to be back with us.
Believe it or not, it has been just over a full year since James was last with us, Bill. So I'm stoked to have him back. He has never had a loss for words or energy.
I'm going to guarantee you he's jacked up. I can just tell it's going to be one of those nights. So let's get to it. Let's welcome James Seltzer back to Philly Pressbox Radio. James, I know you're fired up, pal.
Yeah, I am. Look, I will tell you, I haven't seen you in a year. I do have had a life change in the last year, waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning. Yes. This time of night, I am actually slightly less energetic than I used to be. I'll be completely honest. But yeah, I definitely, I always have something to say for sure.
Oh yeah, you switched in mid-February to mornings. What is your normal nighttime and early rise routine? You go to bed like 8 o'clock?
No. I'm asleep by now, Chet. This is past my bedtime.
Wow.
So like during Philly season, I have to stay up and watch games, and that is what it is. And like a Sixers season, I watch important games, but I also try and prioritize sleep as well. And I'll, catch up, watch the game the next day, whatever, like not watch it live is the point. So I try and go to bed like 6:30 if I can.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, I have to get up at 3 a.m, so
yeah,
and it's mostly that I also rarely get to go to bed that early. So on nights when I can, I try to, but there are always things that get in the way. So I rarely get to go to bed that early. So usually end up, it's that I'm always trying to catch up on sleep. So like any opportunity I get to get like 8 hours, I try and always get it. It just doesn't happen enough. You know what I mean?
Thanks for letting us get in the way on this.
Yes, no problem.
It won't take you too long. Let's get to it, James. Eagles talk, first of all. We got to start with the Birds. I mean, you saw what happened Sunday. It was pretty much a disaster. What are your biggest takeaways from that 42-19 beatdown we got on Sunday?
Yeah, obviously ugly, frustrating, all that stuff. I think I think the Niners played awesome. I think you got to give them credit. They came in with a chip on their shoulder after, what they believe happened. And even though they whined about it, like that fact doesn't change. They came in and they played intense and they're talented and they played the best game they can play. And the Eagles didn't match it. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I personally think the biggest reason is just, the schedule caught up with the Eagles. It finally did. We talked about this gauntlet that they were going through with the, Dallas and Kansas City and Buffalo and this, and then, this game, and then Dallas again. It's like, and no one expected them to go undefeated during this stretch. And I actually thought they might lose the Buffalo game because it felt like, all right, the Kansas City game, the Monday night game, such a huge emotional win that they were, waiting for that Super Bowl rematch on the road in the rain. Short week, you come home and play Buffalo. I thought that was the spot to lose. And in the first half, it looked like it. And then they did their thing again. But then they win the game, but then they end up playing, a record number of snaps. I mean, Reed Blankenship, between the 95, defensive snaps and the 15 or whatever it was, 16 special team snaps, played 121 snaps in the game. It was the most snaps a guy had played since 2012. Like, I think that takes a toll on teams. And sure. And I think you saw it with that defense. The defense came out fired up and they looked good those first couple drives. And then they just kind of lost their legs. And the Niners were coming in off 10 games off, 10 days off, excuse me. So like, and again, it sounds like an excuse. I'm not meaning as an excuse. The Niners won fair and square. There's no like complaining or whining about it. I just think the NFL regular season is ebb and flow. Like we see it every year where teams go up and down and there's this, again, ebb and flow to it. And I was looking up the biggest losses for Super Bowl champions. Like so many Super Bowl champions have like these 30-point losses, 25-point losses, 17-point loss, like whatever. Like this happens to every team, every good team in a season for the most part. And I think it's just that it was this super hyped up game against the Niners and everyone was so jacked up for it and they got whooped. I do think it got out of hand late, but it was a game for 3.5 quarters, 2.5 quarters. Into the third quarter, like the Eagles were still in that football game. When they scored after the Dom incident and all that, it was an 8-point game. Not that it felt like they were in it as much, but like there was still a chance they could play. And I don't think they could have, but I'm just saying like it wasn't a disaster until it got away from them at the end. But ultimately, like, look, they lost. It's a bad loss. I think they're going to respond. And that's what this team has shown us all year. That they respond to adversity. They've been resilient. And I think it'd be foolish to look at this disastrous game. Again, they got their butts whooped. Like that is inarguable at home in a big game. But I think it'd be foolish to look at that one game and say, all right, like, this guy's falling.
Yeah. Hey, James, I think to your point, and I 100% agree with you, defensively from the tackling standpoint, weary legs don't tackle well. That we know that. And so I 100% agree with you. The thing that bothers me probably more about this game is, one, the game plan did not appear to be running the football at all. And secondly, the offensive line did a pretty darn good job and nobody was open. And now, Dallas Goedert will certainly help that when he gets back, but it's a little troubling to me that Hurts had 4.8 seconds on the average to throw the ball. Couldn't find people open. That's worrisome.
I'm with you. And I think there are a few parts to that. I think the Goddard thing's big. I think we can't underrate that. He's a massive part of this offense. They have 3 passing threats on this offense. Like it's not an offense that spreads the ball all over the place and, gets 10 different receivers involved. Like that's not what this offense is. This offense has 3 super talented top players at their position in the sport. And they utilize those guys and then Swift too a little bit, but like this is about those guys and having one of those pieces missing is a major impediment, I think, on the passing game and the run game. He's a really big part of that, running game. And it's one of the things he does best, and not that I'm an expert, but every expert says that Dallas Goedert is about as good a run game blocking tight end as you could possibly have. And you could see it, but even more than what we see, as watching the game. So I think on top of that, so the Goddard thing I think is a big deal. But also, I think to your point, I think the issue is in this specific game, I think you don't abandon the run like they did, even though, look, it wasn't working. I think the argument they're going to say is, look, we couldn't run the ball, and they haven't run it well. I think the bigger issue, because they have tried to run the ball most games outside of that Niners game, the bigger issue is they're not running it well. And I don't know whether the reason for that is, and I don't think it's offensive line related. I think, look, I think Juergens being out hurt them for a bit, but Juergens is back. I think that, look, I think, I don't know if DeAndre Swift and this group of running backs is as good as we hoped they were. I think DeAndre's talented, but I think there might be a reason he's never been a pounded every down back in the NFL so far, but on top of that, I think the fact that Jalen can't run or hasn't been running or whatever, like he has in the past, like the threat of that is part of what made this so dynamic. Like the whole running game was based around this, 11 on 11, and you got Hurts. And they're not doing that like at all, especially in the Niners game. Like we saw more design runs the week before against Buffalo and just more of him escaping and doing things. And that's when the offense is most dynamic. And I'm fine with them protecting him, and especially with the knee and all that, and trying to keep him healthy. But at a certain point, you're not going to win games if you can't run the ball. I'm with you, Bill. Like if I'm looking at this right now, and the third point of this is Brian Johnson, and Nick Sirianni, Johnson Sirianni. And I don't think I would put them last on this list of stuff. Like I'm not super concerned. I think Brian Johnson's still learning. He's a first-time play caller. And I also think that, I think the biggest thing is we didn't maybe realize in the moment how great Shane Steichen was at it. And I think he's showing that in Indianapolis right now. I think the dude is a pretty special play caller and pretty special at designing an offense. So I think he's a big loss, and this staff is learning how to work without him. And I think that's an understandable thing. And I'm willing to understand some flaws along the way, but if this team's going to compete and win the Super Bowl, they have to figure it out. They have to figure the running game out, Bill.
James, back to the other side of the ball. The defense, as you noted, was pretty horrible against the Niners. 213 yards after the catch, which is not good. The secondary was bad. The linebackers were even worse. The Eagles did sign Shaq Leonard officially the other day. How much of a difference can he make in his first week with the team?
Yeah, look, I don't know about the first week. It's tough to just step in and make a difference. Obviously, I think, it's hard to be much worse than what we saw in the last game, at least from Nicholas Morrow. I think missing Zach Cunningham was big. He's been really good. He's not great or anything, but he's been really solid, and he's where he's supposed to be, and he makes plays. So I do think missing Cunningham, he's going to be back this week, apparently, reportedly. So I think that's really good. So, I'm happy about that. But look, I think, Moreau is, he's had some big plays, but he's not a very good linebacker. There's a reason they cut him to start the season and had to bring him back. And then, Nakobe getting hurt this team. And I think, look, I do think part of it's what Bill mentioned before. I do think weary legs don't tackle is a thing that happened in this game. But a fair amount of the defensive issues that really got away from them, like that Debo touchdown, was missed tackling. And this defense has not been a team that has missed tackles all year. It's not like we've watched this defense all year and been like, oh, more missed tackles. Look at it again, missing tackle. Like that, at least to my eyes, like they're not the best tackling team, but they certainly haven't been a disaster in that area. And they absolutely were in that game. And part of that is credit to the Niners. I mean, Deebo Samuel's a tough dude to bring down. Christian McCaffrey's a tough dude to bring down. George Kittle's a tough dude to bring down. But I think you also have to look at the fact that they did play 95 snaps last week, and the guys making these tackles, the guys in the secondary are playing all those snaps. Like it's just it's just like a fact of the situation that I think has to be added to the equation, not an all-out excuse. So I just think I'm not super worried about the tackling part, but I think there are real worries about the talent there. And I think Shaq Leonard, look, I don't think he's going to be all pro Shaq Leonard. I think that ship has sailed. It's one of those, can he be much worse? I don't think so. I think just by kind of having his football instincts and his understanding of what he's supposed to do in a situation could be an upgrade in and of itself. But look, he's also, and, we had Ross Tucker on the show today, and he pointed out, he's had 2 back surgeries. And Ross was like, I've never heard of a player, going back to what they were after having a back surgery ever. He's like, you're always worse. And he's like, if it knocks you down. And he had 2 of them. So it's concerning. And look, the Colts cut him and ate a bunch of money to do it. And that, as Ross Boy again too, he's a legend in Indy, and they love him there, and they were willing to get rid of him. And maybe that's also a favor to him because he wasn't getting playing time there or whatever. I think that's probably part of it too. Who knows? I think we've seen so many times where guys have come off the street or been cut by a team and gone somewhere else and been rejuvenated. And I think there's certainly the potential of that. And he seems like a great locker room guy, like an awesome leader and all those type of things. So I think there's absolutely no downside to it. But I think that we shouldn't be looking at this and saying Shaq Leonard's going to save the season. He could, I guess. I think it's within the realm of potential outcomes. But I think the expectation should be hoping more for him to give you like average linebacker play, which would be better than what you're getting.
Yeah. Hey, James, I think the bright spot to me, now I only watched the game one time as a fan, no extra films to see or whatever. Lane Johnson is an absolute beast.
Yeah.
They wanted to make a Bosa story. They wanted to make a Chase Young story. There was no story because Lane Johnson owned them. He's a tremendous football player.
It was unbelievable, especially, considering that, he had that injury that made him miss the game last week. And, the kind of just out of nowhere wakes up and can't end up going with the groin, he's had the groin surgery last year and then comes out the next week and just stonewalls the best, or arguably one of the best, if not the best, one of the best edge rushers in football and just
dominated
them. Yeah. And look, Bosa won a couple reps here and there. That's going to happen. But for the most part, I'm with you. I thought, and it seems like pretty much everyone is in agreement that Lane dominated him. And it's unbelievable. It's amazing to see. It is, again, I remember when they drafted him as an introductory press guy. I was working for the team back then. It was like so long ago. It's just crazy to think that, and all the guys been through and, all he's talked about, he's we're lucky to have him. He's certainly a Hall of Fame talent without a doubt. And I think for him to be like as good as he is in his mid-30s, it's astounding. And I know we see guys play later and later in their age these days and be able to kind of last and stuff. But for him to just have battled through all the injuries he's had over the years and just what a warrior. I mean, it's a freaking warrior. It's crazy. And to be great. And yes, getting better with like wily veteran stuff where he just like knows it. And look, like he understands angles and geometry and all that kind of stuff and leverage and all these things that he can use. And he has all these tricks to the trade and he knows how to just get guys off balance and take advantage of things and all that stuff. And his technique is brilliant. All that stuff. It's just, it's amazing. It's amazing to watch him and it's amazing to see how consistently great he has been. We're lucky to watch him for sure.
All right, James, we got to sneak in a few Phillies questions before we go to bed.
Yeah.
Aaron Nola, 7 years, $172 million, a lot of years. Was it the right move?
Yeah, look, I think when you look at how this market's playing out, it does feel like this market is pretty inflated. It seems like, Yamamoto, who is someone I was really interested in, it seems like he's going to get significantly more potentially than Nola, at least from what reports are looking like. And look, here's the thing with Nola. I think, is it more money than I would have liked to give it to Nola? Absolutely. Yes, of course. Like ideally, my top end number probably would have been like 150 over 6 years, so going to 7, like it's not like that big a deal for me. I understand. I like the concept of stretching out AAV. I do think that Aaron Nola is a pitcher who should age well in the sense that he's not someone who relies on, super overpowering stuff. He's not someone who has to have a max velocity or have, he just needs to be able to change speeds and have control and be able to put the ball where he wants to put it. And that's something that you can age gracefully with. I think for a lot of guys, he's also someone who, has really just been remarkably durable throughout his career. And those type of guys who just pitch and pitch and pitch and pitch, like the history is pretty good of them continuing to pitch and pitch and pitch. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that often that a guy, pitches this long and then has arm trouble this late in his career or whatever. So, it seems like he's just got one of those arms, and then the comfort, and we know that while maybe he's not going to come through in every big game, we know that he can go take the ball in a big game and give you a real chance to win more often than not. So yeah, and look, I think more than anything, the way this team has to look at it, and the way I look at it, is that they are smack dab in a window to win the World Series right now. They have whatever it is, 3, 4, 5 years. And look, you hope that the window goes forever. And having John Middleton as an owner is a great thing, because he's shown that he's willing to spend and he's willing to do what it takes to compete, and he wants to win. Like, he actually cares about winning, which is more than you could say for a lot of Major League Baseball owners. So I'm not saying the window just has to be that, but based on the ages of the players and the top end talent on this team, the Harpers, the Turners, the Castellanos, the Schwarbers, the whatever it is, the Wheeler, Nola now, like, this is a group that needs to win. And especially considering the last couple years and what they've done, and then not winning, like, it really is, it's a window, and you need to win right now. And I will always support a team going for it in these type of situations, especially because, and this is something that I say with obviously knowing that the long history of the Philadelphia Phillies, I do think for the first time ever, or certainly in a long time, shorter than a certain little periods of time, I do feel good about the drafting and developing, what they've done now. I feel good about the infrastructure that they put in place, the people that they have running things on that side of the front office, the Preston Mattingly's, the Brian Barbers, those type of people who I think are really smart and really have come from smart organizations like the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Rays. And they've gone out and hired all these guys like Ani, the guy they hired from the Rays, and Dombrowski, who is, a Hall of Fame front office person, like, without a doubt, like, lock it up. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's an all-timer, and he knows what a winning organization should look like. And it feels like for the first time, it really feels for the first time in a long time, like the infrastructure of the Phillies feel like a winning organization behind the scenes. And obviously it's transferred to the field, but you have a window right now, go for it, win. So I'm all for it. So a little more than I would have liked, but I understand it given the situation in the market.
Well, James, I am 100% with you on everything you said, and you didn't say one thing that I got to say. They've re-upped Rob Thompson through 2025. He's not my guy.
Oh,
he's not my guy. He is the one name you didn't mention, and he isn't the guy to take them to the world to win a World Series. You heard it here first. Probably not popular.
Bill, I actually don't think it's that unpopular. I don't think you're alone in that. I think there are a lot of people who have seen him make mistakes, similar mistakes in the last 2 postseasons. In big spots, but I think that, first of all, I think he's a really good manager, and I think that I understand where people are coming from, but I think that we sometimes get myopic watching our own teams and not all baseball. Like, there are some horrendous managers who succeed. Dave Roberts is like a disaster to watch manage a baseball game. I think he's just god awful at his job. And he won that rinky-dink World Series in 2020. I really don't count it, but like they compete every year, but he loses in the playoffs every year. And like, I think that, I think for the most part, Thompson makes really good decisions. And I think he had a really good playoff run until the end, just like last year. I think he had a really good playoff run until the end. Last year, he made the Wheeler mistake, and it was a disaster. It really was. We all know it was. He should not have pulled Zach Wheeler in that spot. And I think he knows it in hindsight. And this year, he trusted his guys too much. And I think that he learns. I think he's going to learn from it just in the way he's talked about it. If you've heard all the postseason stuff, like, he's crushed, man. Like, he just said today or whatever that he's like, I still haven't watched World Series. Like, I can't bring myself to do it. It hurts too much. But he was on our show. He's been on many spots where he's talked about, like, yeah, like at his postseason press conference where he's like, I probably didn't do things the right way. Like, I would reevaluate some of the things. I probably, like, he talked about it. So I think he's smart. I think he's someone who I don't think he's stubborn. I don't think he's someone who's just going to do things the way he does them, even though it might feel like that in the course of a season that he's stubborn because he's not changing a lineup. I think that's more of a trust his guys type of thing. But I think he's someone who'll learn from his mistakes. I think I honestly believe that. And I also think that, I think the stuff that he does over the course of 162 games matters. I think baseball is a frigging grind. It's hard to get through that season. And I think he's someone who keeps the guys loose and who, I think for the most part doesn't make bad managerial decisions. I know he had some high profile ones, but I think for the most part, he's pretty good. And during the regular season, I don't, feel like I'm like, oh, Topper did it again. He blew it again. I don't really feel that way when I'm watching the games. I'm sure other people do. I don't think managers make that big a difference over the course of regular season. I think they do here and there in moments, but I don't think, I think you can overuse bullpens and you can do things like that, but I haven't noticed any of that type of stuff with Topper. I think, so I feel pretty good about him. Look, can I say for sure, Bill, that the next time they're in a big spot in the playoffs and he has a decision to make like that he's not going to make the wrong one? No, I definitely can't. But
no, he's not going to bring in Craig Kimbrell. So
thank goodness. But again, look, the Orioles gave Kimbrell $13 million. What does that say?
Take it, Craig.
Yeah. So good for you, buddy. Mazel.
Hey, James, before we let you go, man, I just want to mention you and your friend and colleague Jack Fritz did a great job with the pre-game shows during the Phils postseason run. But as you folks can see in this video, sometimes maybe you had just a little too much fun. What was going on there, James?
Yeah, I still don't know. I feel like that was an AI fabricated video, as far as I'm concerned. I can't really. I'm not sure. No, it was neat, dude. We got to go in the locker room for the two celebrations at home and just kind of observe it, and that was fun because Diego, the translator who left, shout out to Diego. Threw some beers on us and stuff, but it was neat to, watching those celebrations last year and stuff, 2 years ago, I guess, whatever it was, 2022, and it just being such a big part of that run. And then being in the room for it and watching it happen in front of me, it was a very surreal experience. So it was neat. Very cool.
Well, hey, James, we're out of time. Let everybody know where they can follow your podcast. Of course, you're on WIP. Give everybody the details, social media platforms, all that good stuff.
Yes. WIP morning show, obviously. Check us out, 6 to 10 a.m. High Hopes podcast is the Phillies pod we were just discussing a second ago with Jack Fritz. And Go Birds pod, me and Elliot, Shore Parks talking birds. So, I'm all over the place. You can find me.
There you go. Do they you have certain times for those? The Eagles
no, so Go Birds Radio is on WIP Saturday 1 to 3. But the pods come out. We always have a post-game pod, so after the game, but otherwise, it's during the week we put out a preview pod and we do a picks pod and all that type of stuff. So it's usually Tuesday and Thursday, but it's not always super consistent with the days. Could be Wednesday. It's it's working around my busy schedule usually. So
there you go.
Yeah, he's a busy guy, Bill. He's got a 5-year-old daughter. Zoe just turned 5. So
yes, she did just a couple days ago. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Hey, happy birthday to her and happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the season.
Yes, you too, fellas. It's always a pleasure. We won't wait a year next time. That's my
there you go.
We'll make it happen sooner. Awesome. Thanks, fellas. Always a pleasure.
All right, James. Thank you much.
See you guys.
All right, Chet. Winter. That was great, by the way.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Winter is here. Gas prices, they're headed back up again, Chet. It's time for you to save some money with Allstate's pay-as-you-go auto insurance.
Well, Bill, that is the case. Allstate's pay-as-you-go auto insurance puts you in control. You only pay for the miles you drive with the same full coverage that a traditional policy offers. Pay-per-mile insurance gives customers greater control of their insurance costs. See how much you can save with pay-per-mile car insurance by calling your local agent. In Westchester, Pennsylvania, that is Dave Lavoie at Allstate. Call Dave Lavoie, 610-430-0700. Once again, 610-430-0700.
Well, hey, Chet, speaking of trying to save money, that'll give you a little extra money to go to the ugly sweater contest that's coming up soon at the Irish Rover Station House.
One of the many things happening at the Irish Rover in the next few weeks, Bill. The Irish Rover on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. And by the way, here's something I never talked to you about the Rover. They have all this stuff available that you see on the left. Merch. Check that out. There are hoodies, there are T-shirts, crew shirts, zip-up jackets, you name it. They have that. So check all that out. And yeah, they have Quizzo Wednesday evenings, Killer Burger Thursdays, dinner specials Thursday through Sunday. And as you alluded, Bill, next week, the 14th, the Irish Rovers annual Ugly Sweater Party. Yes, I will be there. Come and get ugly with me. It all happens at the Irish Rover on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. Details on their website at, of course, IrishRoverStationHouse.com. And now let's go to Merrill.
Hi, football fans. This is Merrill Reese, and you're listening to Bill and Chet on Philly Pressbox Radio. It's good!
Well, I didn't have an opportunity to listen to Merle this week, but I have a feeling there wasn't much good that he was talking about this week.
Well, we saw the game, Bill. We know there wasn't.
That's right. Well, hey, Chet, speaking of good, though, the Flyers playing good hockey, as we said, back-to-back wins against Pittsburgh. That's always good. Both goaltenders got a win in that, both one-goal games as well.
Yeah, I was out seeing a band on Saturday night, so I caught out of the corner of my eye the end of that one out in Pittsburgh. And then at home Monday evening, I saw a bunch of the overtime win over those same Pens in Philly. Coots with the game winner. Yeah, Bill, they are playing well, and I know a lot of people think they should be tanking, but that's not something they have any interest in doing. I know you're not a fan of the whole tanking thing, so it's refreshing to see them playing hard, playing pretty well. What are your impressions?
Yeah, I mean, tanking's out of the question. I think John Tortorella wouldn't have tanking. First of all, that would never happen. To the point with him, though, he benched Joel Farabee the other day. Played him like 26 seconds or something crazy. He's playing to win, and Morgan Frost is getting out of the doghouse. He's starting to play better. Carter Hart and Robert Urson both won games for them in the goal, and the youngsters are getting better.
Tyson Forster playing really well.
He is. Well, hey, speaking of hockey, for those that don't know why you weren't with us last week, tell us where you were and how it was hockey related.
Well, yeah, I was at one of the Conshohocken brewery establishments. Specifically, it was Puddler's Kitchen and Tap in Bridgeport. Great place, by the way. I was there for the official release of Jonesy Hockey Lager, which is pretty tasty, by the way. And there were a bunch of notables there, including WIP's Glenn Macnow, Mike Sealski, Al Morganti, Joe Conklin, and Jody McDonald, former WIP legend and current author Angelo Cataldi, fresh from a visit on our show. The same, in fact, night he was on our show last week. He was there, so he's amazing. Flyers broadcaster Jim Jackson was there, and a bunch of former Flyers, such as Bernie Perrant and Bob Hound Kelly. And, oh, yeah, these two guys, if I can find them. How about this? A couple of legendary wingers, Brian Propp and John Leclerc.
Goal scorers.
Yeah, two of the very best. And Propp says, hey, let's get a picture with Leclerc. And, they put me in the middle. So I'm like centering two of the greatest Flyers wingers of all time. So that was pretty cool. And Danny Briere was there. Boy, Danny Briere made a great impression with fans. He still looks like he's 25, by the way, which bugs the heck out of me. But, he was there. And the president of hockey operations, Keith Jones. So I had a nice talk with both Briere and Jonesy. And, yes, I asked Jonesy about this pretty exciting beer release that was happening that night.
You played in the NHL, now you're the president of the hockey operations of the Flyers, but now you got a beer named after you, Jonesy Lager. Where does that rank among all your career highlights?
It's pretty high. I have to admit, it's pretty high up there. It's pretty cool. It's great that it's for charity. It's great to see everyone that came out to the support and it's pretty tasty too. So
it is.
And then everybody should grab a Jonesy Hockey Lager.
Jonesy Hockey Lager from Conshohocken Brewery. I love it.
It is pretty tasty, by the way. I would have talked longer, but it was just so loud in there. I just didn't think it would be good quality. But I got Jonesy. I'm not a big autograph guy, but I had to get Jonesy to sign one of these cans. So
Nice.
he is just so freaking nice, by the way. He is just very, very nice to everybody who talked to him. He starts talking to me like I'm an old friend. I met him, twice before in my life, but he's like, "Hey, how you been, buddy?" So he's just great. Hockey players just like that.
Yeah, and what's really cool about that is, I mean, this guy's the president of the team and the general manager, and they're out hanging out with regular people, drinking beer and having a good time. That in its own self is cool.
Yeah. And as I said, it is a good beer. And I had read once that he actually prefers to be called Jonesy by everybody rather than Keith. So I asked him about it that night. He's, "Oh, yeah, definitely Jonesy." He says, "What about you?" I said, "Well, same with me." I said, "I'm Chet." I said, "It's not my name. It's a nickname, but I prefer Chet." So there you go, Chet and Jonesy.
There you go. And you know what, Chet? It's I wasn't thinking we would go here with this, but talking about all those guys being out and about, and we see it in all the sports. Bryson Stott at the Flyers game last night. We see guys showing up, other teams coming to Eagles games. Of course, the Eagles were always at the Phillies games. Jalen Hurts was at the Sixers game the other night. I think it's a different time for these young players that are much more fan appreciative, or I don't know if that's the right word, fan friendly.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, good time. You can bump into those guys almost anywhere.
So I really hope that Danny Briere and Keith Jonesy succeed, because they are very fan friendly and they seem to know what they're doing. And so far, it looks like they're on the right track.
I hope so. Good to be having playoff hockey back in Philadelphia. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're not that far off the way it looks.
That's right. All right, let's move on. Let's give a shout out to all the shows at the Edge of Philly Sports Network this week. The gang has all the bases covered as always. You can catch all the action on www.eopsports.com, as well as Edge of Philly Sports on YouTube. You can also find our Philly Press Box radio show on our YouTube channel. Help us out. Hit those subscribe, follow, like buttons. And as always, share with your family and friends. As you can see, loaded up every night, and some extra stuff on Sunday for Dallas week.
We forgot to get a prediction from James because we just ran out of time. I wanted to see how he thought about, the whole Dallas Eagles game this week, which is pretty huge in the scheme of things regarding the whole, playoff seedings and all that.
Yeah. I think when we started the gauntlet, I think we talked about being 4-2, that they could lose too.
We would have taken that.
But not the 49ers and Cowboys games. They can't lose.
Yeah,
those
they keep winning too. So that's the bad thing. They keep winning.
Yeah, Dallas, without getting too far off track, Dallas doesn't worry me quite as much, regardless of what happens this week. They've got the toughest part of their schedule coming up.
Correct.
49ers have a pretty easy run of it here. Seattle this week, and then it gets pretty easy for them. And from the Eagles' standpoint, they've got Seattle next week, and then it gets a little easy for them. Dallas is the one with the tough down the stretch run. So we'll see how it goes. Uh-oh. Here we go. We haven't had a random chat in a while.
The people have been clamoring for it, Bill. So they said, "Hey, you haven't had a random chat in a couple of months."
I bet.
Well, in my mind, they were saying that anyway.
Right,
so
right.
You got to give the people what they want, Bill. So I'm going to do that right here, right now, and you'll see why. Hey, everybody, it's Chet. And yes, it's another poll regarding a great classic rock band and some of our favorite songs from that band. We did it over the last several months about songs of the Beach Boys, the Rolling Stones, and more recently Pink Floyd. And now, just ahead of what would have been Jim Morrison's 80th birthday, believe it or not, we're going to talk about our favorite songs by The Doors. They only released 6 albums over the time that Jim was alive and they were together. They did it over the course of 4.5 years, 1967 through mid-1971. But with that, a whole bunch of memorable hits and some terrific deeper cuts, too. As with the previous polls, I asked a bunch of folks on Facebook and in some cases via text or email for their absolute favorite top 3 songs by The Doors, and then compiled the results. I'll give you the recap in just a second. Now, yeah, I'm old, I know that, but I was just a kid when The Doors put out all of those great tunes. But even as a young'un, I really liked those songs: Light My Fire, People Are Strange, and Hello, I Love You, the first 3 true hits that I remembered hearing. And you know what? I still like all of them and the other hits that followed today. I actually didn't own any of those early albums, at least I don't think I did, but I later did buy the 1980 Doors Greatest Hits. And then a little later on, much later on, actually, 2001, I picked up the CD version of the very best of The Doors. So it really wasn't until the internet became prevalent that I investigated The Doors' deeper cuts, like, Ghost Song, Moonlight Drive, and, oh yeah, The Soft Parade. You cannot petition the Lord with prayer. I think that song scared me just a little bit. Anyway, what did all of you go with in picking your favorite songs by The Doors? I don't know if you can see it, but I got all the tabulations right here. Right around 60 people actually voted, and you guys, for the most part, did stick with the big hits, although there were some deeper cuts mentioned, including Alabama Song, Whiskey Bar, Backdoor Man, The Crystal Ship, Land Ho, Love Street, Strange Days, and Waiting for the Sun. Oh, in tabulating the votes, a first place vote was worth 3 points, a second place vote 2 points, and you guessed it, a third place vote 1 point. Once again, I had a really tough time coming up with my personal top 3. I ended up going with the underrated When the Music's Over at number 3, the amazing Light My Fire at number 2, and in the top spot, because I just love blues rock, Roadhouse Blues, particularly the live version that ended up on An American Prayer several years after Jim's death. So what were the results after all of the votes were counted? Well, popular tunes like Backdoor Man, Peace Frog, and Love Her Madly missed the top 10. Coming in right at number 10, the haunting, nearly 12-minute-long masterpiece, The End. At number 9, the early hit Hello, I Love You. 8, 7, and 6, Soul Kitchen. That one came in higher than I would have expected. And then People Are Strange and Break On Through to the Other Side. The top 5, all huge, very popular hits for The Doors that are still appreciated by pretty much all music fans today. Well, you can see for yourself. I'm going to put up the graphic showing the full top 10, actually, based on your voting. And yeah, check out this top 5. L.A. Woman in the number 5 spot, and then Touch Me, 4th. My personal favorite, as mentioned, Roadhouse Blues, that finished at number 3. Riders on the Storm was number 2, and taking the top spot pretty handily, actually. It was voted either first or second by 1/3 of all who voted, the great Light My Fire. Well, there you have it. If you like The Doors, there are a couple of tribute bands that have shows coming up in the Philly and New York area in the very near future. There's a new version of the old tribute band, the Crystal Ship, and a band known as the Ultimate Doors, the Doors tribute band that plays all up and down the East Coast. They're playing up at Penn's Peak on December 30th in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. Hey, thanks everybody for voting, and thanks for watching. Long live The Doors.
Yeah, that was fun. Good stuff.
And you went with L.A. Woman, which is a popular choice.
Yeah.
I went with Roadhouse Blues, which came in, 3rd or 4th? I think it would have finished higher. I think casual fans don't always know the name of the song Roadhouse Blues. They hear it, keep your eyes on the road, but they don't know the name of it, so they didn't vote for it. That's right. my thinking, my theory anyway.
And from my own standpoint, I didn't actually study the list enough to think about some of those.
Right.
Certainly remember them, but just didn't remember, just didn't think of them all. But I was happy with my 3 picks.
Absolutely. I still love The Doors, and I am going to see that one tribute band December 16th at the Broken Goblet in Bensalem. It's Crystal Ship is the name of the band. It's basically a reformation of a tribute band that was popular back in the 70s and 80s. It's not the same guys, but it's new guys who have the blessings of the old guys. So it's like a tribute band to a tribute band in a sense. They are good, though. I have sampled them. Can't wait.
Sounds fun.
Yep.
All right. It's time to talk tailgating, Eagles style, and none better than Bob Cavanaugh and the gang at Cavs Philly Tailgates.
Yeah, let's see what Cab has going on. You know that Cabs has been cooking up terrific catering business now for more than 30 years, known best for their tailgate parties. Cabs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Also, they do corporate events, you name it. Pretty much anytime you need food and some catering, they will help you out. Now, as far as the Eagles games, which they handle the pregame tailgates for, there's only one left on the schedule. They're not doing the Christmas Day one, but December 31st, New Year's Eve day, the Eagles welcome the Arizona Cardinals to town. Yeah, there will be a tailgate before that one. Order your tickets via the website, phillytailgates.com. It all happens outside Live Casino down near the sports complex. Check the site if you have questions, and you can email them at cabscatering@verizon.net. Cabs Philly Tailgates is the way to go. And as you probably know, Cab works with Vince at Philly Sports Trips, and they are the folks to use for all Philadelphia Eagles road games and more. And they've updated their schedule recently. Of course, the Cowboys game and the trip to Seattle are already sold out, but lots of other trips still ahead. Like you can go up to MetLife and see the Birds and Giants battle September 7th. And then you have spring training and the Phillies trip to London next June. All the details at phillysportstrips.com.
Yeah, I bet you they're scrambling a little bit with the NFL deciding to move that Seattle game to a Monday night.
Yeah.
Talk about messing up people's plans. Not real happy about that.
A lot of people are not happy about that, but I know I'm not. I'm not going to the game, but still, if you did make plans and were planning to fly back on Monday, you might have to stay the night now and go to the game and then change your travel plans, maybe get hit with a little additional fee. So
Sure.
Yeah, it's a mess for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a mess, Chet, how is it possible, if you talk about an angry fan, for the Sixers to go to Boston, play the Celtics, big game, right? It's always a big game. In Philly, it's certainly a big game. In Boston, and both Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey sit out. If I'm a ticket buyer to that game, pal, I am unhappy. I'm unhappy for the fans as it is.
I'm with you. Plus, could use those wins too. And when you're without your two best players going up to Boston, you don't have much of a chance to win. They made a game of it, but yeah, it's unfair to the fans. And you think both of them probably could have played. We don't know for sure, but I would hate to be a visiting fan who wants to see great players from another team come into my town and just watch them up close. So it sucks. I can't deny it.
Yeah, and how many Philly fans might be up in that area that don't get to see the Sixers or any team come in, and you go in and your guys aren't playing. And I'm sure they're not giving tickets away up there. People paid a lot of money to go to that game, and you don't get your guys. And I have a real problem with that.
I understand, Bill, but the other thing, which is kind of weird to me, the whole Kelly Oubre thing. Okay, he's apparently back tonight. He addressed it on Monday, but he didn't really address it. He, talked about going through all this personal stuff, but he didn't really come out and explain again what happened or what may have happened. So it's just kind of weird how nobody's really grilling him on it.
Yeah, that news story disappeared in a quick hurry. Once the police notification came out that there was no video of an accident, that story died on the vine immediately.
Yeah.
It makes you, if for nothing else, it makes you think something's not quite
exactly
right.
And you think you could get more of an explanation out of him, the alleged victim.
Yeah, and unless it's a story that doesn't need to be told. And that's how they're making it appear.
Yeah. So, well.
Yeah.
Hey, the good news: Sixers next couple of weeks they have a bunch of winnable games. Washington and Detroit and a bunch of losers. So maybe they can make up some ground now in the East because they're still very much in it and it's still early. So let's rack up the wins before the new year.
That's right. And hey, you want to say hello to my man Joe Stinger? Said good show, guys. Joe down here in Florida, and I got to see Joe over at spring training games. Good to have you with us, Joe, tonight.
Hey,
all
Joe.
right, Chet. Prediction time. Each week, you and Bob Vitrone Jr. boop to his friends, and I picked the winners of the NFC East games. We usually add a game or two depending on buys or so forth. But I haven't been doing too well, and there was a lot of season left. But you know what? It's getting late early for me to catch up. How did we do last week, and what's the current standings through week 13?
Well, Bill, you and I actually were both 3-1 last week, while Boop was 2-2. He lost on that Colts-Titans game. So the Boopster and I are now tied for the top spot again at 36-18. I got back even with him. You were just 3 games off the pace, actually, at 33-21. So still time. 5 weeks remain, Bill.
Yeah, okay. We got time. So let's go. Let's go to week 14. Washington has the bye. So we added a couple games. Minnesota at Las Vegas, the Vikings -3. Seattle at San Francisco. We added 49ers -10.5 in that game. So let's go ahead. Let's get started with that. Minnesota at the Raiders. Vikings -3.
As always, I print out the Boop sheet without looking at it, so I never know what I'm going to read here. Boop says regarding the Vikings and Raiders, 50% of the Bears' 4 wins have come against these teams. Las Vegas drops in class after losses to the Dolphins and Chiefs and a bye week. Boop is picking the Raiders. Interesting. I am picking the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I'm picking Minnesota too. I'm not sure where Boop's going with that one, but we will find out. Seattle, San Francisco, 49ers -10.5. You would think this is supposed to be a good game. That is a lot of points.
Yeah, the Niners looked really good, unfortunately, on Sunday. Boop says this will be the Niners' second home game since Halloween. Only second, wow. They have had winning trips to Jacksonville, Seattle, and Philadelphia in that span. He's taking the 49ers. I'm taking the 49ers. I'm betting you're taking the 49ers.
Yeah, you can't not take the 49ers the way they played. All right, Monday Night Football. Green Bay at the New York Giants. The Packers are -6.5.
Boop says, I don't think a team can go from beating Patrick Mahomes, as Green Bay did, to losing to whomever New York has under center these days. He's taking the Packers. Yeah, I'm taking the Packers, and I think they're going to cover that 6.5 even on the road.
Yeah, me too. Packers all the way in this one. All right. Eagles go to Dallas Sunday afternoon, national TV again. Cowboys are -3.5. I can tell by the look on your face you are not taking the Eagles. I can just tell it.
It's actually Sunday night, Bill. This has to be, Boop says, this has to be one of those throw the game film out with the bathwater weeks for Nick Sirianni. Boop is taking the Eagles, and Bill, you're right. Cowboys have 3 days more rest. They've won 14 in a row at home. Dak is playing well. There's the whole revenge thing from the previous Cowboys-Eagles game. I hate to do it. I hope to hell I'm wrong, but I'm taking the Cowboys to win and cover the 3.5.
You know, after 472 or whatever weeks it is, I can read your face. I knew where you were going with that. Eagles are going to bounce back, and Eagles are going to win this game.
Whoa!
And I expect them to play pretty well this week. They will. They'll recover, and they will win the game.
I will be rooting against myself in this one, at least as far as my pick. So go Birds, but I'm taking the Cowboys. Got to use my head once in a while, Bill.
Well, if I was going to use my head, well, I did, and I took the Chiefs over the Eagles. I ain't taking the Cowboys over the Eagles. I don't care. Chop my head off instead.
All right.
All right. So
margin of victory.
Margin of victory pool standings.
I know you like to see these.
You're making a mockery out of this thing, I hate to say.
Yes, I'm 12-1. Yes, I'm running away with the margin point total. Last week I won. I only got 3 points with my Tampa win. You got the Chargers winning by 6. Boop is not having a good year. He has lost 6 of his 13 picks, but he's ahead of you by 2 points. Go figure.
I just keep winning by winning close games.
Yeah. And I've won a bunch of routes, which is why I have such a big lead. So this week, Boop is taking those Green Bay Packers over the Giants. I am taking the Pittsburgh Steelers because they're playing god-awful New England Thursday night, and I haven't taken the Steelers yet this year, and the Steelers are going to bounce back from their awful loss last Sunday. So go Steelers.
Didn't the Steelers lose their quarterback?
I don't know, but they're playing New England. So did they lose Pickett?
I think they did. think he had surgery.
Oh,
Who's Boop taking?
Boop is taking those Green Bay Packers.
Oh, that's who I took. Green Bay Packers against those lousy New York Football Giants. Mitch Trubisky is the quarterback for the Steelers, pal.
I'm okay with that.
Hey, kid sent you a note. Actually, maybe he sent it to me. Chet's in the transfer portal after that Cowboys pick. You're right, kid. He's out.
All right. I said I hope I'm wrong.
Right. All right, Chet. Good stuff. Hey, great guest again tonight in James Seltzer. Who's coming to Philly Press Box Radio next week?
Well, it's funny you asked. Let's see if I can find the graphics. Bill, we are going to have next week our very first ever all Brad show. We have 2 guests, and they're both named Brad. Okay. One of them is a guy who's written a book about Pennsylvania high school basketball and the many great players and teams that have come out of Pennsylvania over the years.
Wow.
It's a guy named Bradley Hebner. So we will have Brad Hebner on the show. And we have another pretty famous Brad. Brad Marsh, the former Flyer, is going to be on to talk about next month's alumni events, including the game against the Bruins and all sorts of other things, and the many big stars that are going to come out for this alumni game that are going to play in late January, including Eric Lindros. So we're going to have Brad Marsh on live with us, Bill.
That'll be great. I'll tell you, having Brad Marsh is a coup for all that he's doing with that Flyers Alumni Association. But the high school basketball deal,
doing a great job. So I knew you'd like that one, Bill.
Yeah, and the high school basketball deal, I'm going to like that one as well. That's good stuff.
Yep.
All right. You're rolling them in, pal. We let you out at night, and look what happens.
Hey, quick thoughts about the college football mess. Florida State getting jobbed. I don't follow it as closely as you, but how do you go perfect on the season and not get in the playoffs like Florida State?
Yeah, it's a follow the money thing. It definitely happened, and all you could do as a team. What do you tell your kids every season? Take care of your business. They took care of their business, and everything will take care of itself. Well, guess what? It didn't, and it's a shame that you took a team that was, they weren't playing Little League football. They were playing in a Power 5 conference. Yeah. And, the sad thing about that, Chet, is you make your schedules out, whatever they are, 5 years in advance.
Right.
Well, if you're Florida State, you don't know 5 years from now that Florida is down a little bit. Miami's down a little bit. Clemson's not what they were just 3 years ago. But you still beat them. You still beat everybody on your schedule. And not very fair to the kids at Florida State because they lost their quarterback that, they're being left out.
Oh, well. And meanwhile, we got Penn State with those 2 losses, finishing 10th. And they'll go to a bowl game also on New Year's.
Peach Bowl, going to play Ole Miss Rebels in Atlanta.
Yes.
And that'll be a good game for them. And you could talk forever about Penn State. They're 10-2 again. Unfortunately, the 2 were the same 2 that puts them in 3rd place in the Big Ten East. But it's another New Year's 6 bowl game for James Franklin, and most places would be thrilled to be 10-2 and go into a New Year's 6 game. It just doesn't feel quite the same when you keep losing to the same 2 teams.
Army Navy this weekend also up in Foxborough. I know we'd rather have it in Philly, but hey, it's still something to watch every Saturday this time of year.
Absolutely.
Army
Navy, my favorite game of the year, in spite of some other great games that we've been watching every weekend. I just love to watch it. And Foxborough this year, and I believe it's in D.C., Landover next year, and then I think it comes back to Philly. But it's away for a couple of years, and that's not good.
Bill, wrap it up. Hey, happy Hanukkah to everybody, by the way. Hanukkah, I believe, starts tomorrow at sundown. So to our Jewish friends, happy Hanukkah. All
right, let's thank our special guest tonight, James Seltzer, our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgate, PPCC 118 Raz Room, and Dave Lavoie of Allstate Insurance in Westchester, PA. For Jim Chet Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll join Philly Press Box Radio next Wednesday, December 13th at 7 p.m. You see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel, and listen on Google Podcasts as well as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans, and go Birds!
Happy trails to you, till we meet again.